All right, more Ruby on Rails tutorial.
This is lesson.
Oops. I don't know why I'm saying oops. It wasn't my fault that the video didn't load.
This is lesson 3 of the Ruby on Rails tutorial screencast, mostly static pages. In this lesson, we'll begin development of the main sample application used throughout the rest of the tutorial. We'll start with the deceptively simple and highly instructive task of creating static pages. We'll then add a small amount of dynamic content. Along the way, we'll get our first taste of automated testing, including introduction to test-driven development. As in the previous 2 lessons, we'll start by creating a new Rails application, the command line, like this. Remember, it's Rails new.
Oh, this is a long one. This is kind of a long one. I think I'll just pause my recording and watch the video and then resume, since I think I had a couple of the shorter videos sped up in my previous videos, but this is like, this is kind of long. So all right, so I was watching the video some, and I actually popped it out into VLC. Just bring it on over here. Oh, that's weird that okay, there we go. And I realized that like the use of Git, like it's pretty straightforward, but it's been sort of like mysterious in a sense. Like I kind of knew what was going on, but I kind of didn't. And so I've just been sort of following along and pasting. But I decided I didn't want Git to be like mysterious voodoo commands. Um, so I decided to, even though he explains it a little bit, but the tutorial guy is trying to cover a lot of material. So he didn't go into a lot of depth. So I looked up the nature of these Git commands. And unlike something that I had tried to look up previously, and had a hard time finding stuff in the last video, I forget what it was offhand, but with this, I was able to find some good discussion, and I found this little diagram. So basically, and this isn't on it, but Git init, it just sort of gets us started, I guess. And then there's like this concept of the staging of the files and the actual committing of the files to the repository. Right, so if you just do, so you need to give, okay, you need to give git add some sort of thing to add. Like if you just do git add, you get this message, nothing specified, nothing added. So if you do git add a, that adds all the files in the current working directory to the staging area. And then if you do git commit, then that's actually committing them to the repository. And that commits them to a local repository. And then if you want to commit them to a remote repository, you got to do a git push. And this just shows that, like, some options. Like you could just git add a single file or a directory. Since in this tutorial we've just been like adding the whole directory for the app at a time, just really quickly. And then this, for committing, this M thing just lets you write in like what you did, just like in line like that. And so something I've seen the tutorial use sometimes, yeah, is like git commit A and M, and A and M is just, it's a combination for dash A and dash M. But git commit with option A passed to it, I guess, does the staging and committing. Where's that? Right. In like one step. So these two become combined for the things that it already knows about in its index. So if you're just modifying files in your project, then I think that's fine to use that. But I guess if you added files, then you would have to use add. All right, so this tutorial, most basic git commands with examples at Ruby Garage, and I just sent an email about it to filist, is really, really good and clear. And it's pretty long, but there's it explains stuff fairly slowly and with lots of metaphor and example and illustration, so that takes a while, And this is one thing that was particularly useful for me. So he starts, the author starts with adding an individual file, and then adding a couple files, and he's like, okay, adding several files to the staging area. One go is more convenient, but what if we want to add everything in a directory and then use the period? And then he's like, okay, what if you want to add everything in the directory plus the subdirectories? And that's where we do all, and then A, which I've been using extensively in my tutorial, is just it's like an alias for all. It's just like another way of doing it. So that tells me more about what I'm doing, which is good. All right, so that was a little detour with the Git stuff, but it was good. I wanted to know what I was doing. And since I am sort of jumping in with a higher level type of project here, I'm gonna have to look stuff up. Like I didn't do the some Git preliminary course or something. So okay. So far I've I created a new sample app. I edited a gem file according to these instructions. I did bundle install without production. Did the Git stuff, and I just learned a little bit about that. So now we'll create a new repository on GitHub. At some earlier point in the tutorial, Hartle advised to default to making your repositories private, just in case. And you see Git gives you the commands necessary to do this. With his instructions, you got to put in the username. With Git stuff, you don't even have to do that. So I put his commands in, and we're set up. All right, the README file hadn't actually updated. I figured that out because I went to Git on the web and saw that it was the like generic README file. So I checked git status and saw that there was a modified file. So I did commit A and then pushed it to the remote repository, and now it's displaying the proper README. So now we're gonna do I'm gonna go to config, environments, development, and at the end, I'm gonna add this so that we can connect to the local web server. And what he's saying here is we're going to deploy to Heroku, which is a cloud platform for our app, which is free, by the way. And, for like, for this sort of purpose, for like toy apps where you're just messing around and trying stuff and, have very few simultaneous connections. And he says, we're just going to do a little hello world thing because the default Rails page breaks on Heroku, so you can't tell if you've actually deployed successfully or not. So, app, controllers, application controller. Do that. Save. And we want the route to go to that hello world. And I want to commit it again. Oops. No, it's in the wrong window. Okay. Push. Could create. And now it's pushing it to Heroku. Very exciting. Let's get the link here. Oh. So we'll wait until it's done and then we'll see if we see hello world. Very exciting. And just I think it's, there's a lot of methodicalness. I broke up that word across a very lengthy pause. There's a lot of methodicalness to the process of even like setting up the initial toy app and getting it on the web. And there were a couple of hiccups, like sometimes stuff, because I want to keep the videos fairly short and condensed, so I pause it, and sometimes stuff happens in the pauses, and it'd be like better if that was in the main video, but I'll just like reflect on it at least after the fact. So when I was editing the gem file, it beeped at me when I was trying to, I did like build or whatever, bundle without production, because the even though I think the author of this tutorial keeps his gem file fairly up to date, one of the gems, it was like the wrong version number or something. It was like and it said it was like locked. You had to use some different version, so I had to change that. I had to edit it. It was really straightforward to get it to work, but it was the sort of thing that, like, if you're just expecting everything to work smoothly without having to mess with anything, you might get stuck. Like, even though I think this is a very hand-holdy tutorial, and I don't say that in a negative way at all. I think there's like a role for that, like, as if you don't know what you're doing, and you're trying to sort of jump in for something that's maybe, a bit of a reach, having a lot of hand-holdiness is good. But even for a very hand-holding type of tutorial, there's still beeps and errors and glitches and things that don't quite work right. And you have to be energetic in handling that and not just like be like, why isn't the tutorial working? And this is probably like with this Cloud9 stuff and all that, and this, Cloud IDE, this is probably like as good as it gets as far as, and this guy keeping his tutorial very updated. This is probably as good as it gets in terms of like the environment that you're using matching up with the environment that the person who made the tutorial used. It doesn't, but still, you're gonna have issues. So you gotta just kind of deal with that. All right, so let's see if we get our hello world. Moment of truth. There we go. Yay. Okay. All right. So I already did these exercises basically. So because I checked the README and I checked that the deployment succeeded. So let's go on to 3.2.
Now that we've done all that prep work, it's time to get started on the actual application. This is exactly the kind of thing that I would generally use a new branch for, so let's do that. Let's call the topic branch. So we're going to make some static pages, and I want a branch for that. And you can see on Cloud9, it automatically puts the branch name in the prompt here, which is really useful.
Okay. All right, so this command is basically a combination of the commands that create a new branch and check it out. So that's what that's doing. So I did that, and then I ran git branch to confirm that the branch that I'm supposed to be on is the one that I'm on. And you can tell that that's the case by the asterisk and the green text, I guess. All right, another video.
Recall from the last lesson that we used the Rails generate command to make a scaffold, which includes a whole bunch of generated.
All right, I might pause for this because, yeah, the reason I said before, long. If you're watching this at 2 speed, having a video at 4 speed is kind of low value. So, all right, so far I've done Rails generate. Let me see if there's, yeah, right. Rails generate controller static pages, and I gave it home and help as things that I wanted to do the generate for. And the tutorial says we're going to add about later. I think, he said we intentionally forgot about because we're going to add it later in a separate process. I guess to demonstrate that process. And then I did git add, git commit, and pushed it, and I verified on GitHub. Oops, wrong one. Right, on GitHub. See, this is a branch, and I confirmed that my stuff was pushed successfully, as you can see here. So that's cool. Oh, and he talked a little bit about the naming conventions for controllers. And he says, because Ruby uses camel case for class names, my preference is to refer to controllers using their camel case names, but this is a matter of taste. So, yeah. So this bit is talking about the modifications that the generate static pages command that we did made to the routes file. And in particular, it added these two lines. And so now you can figure out like where a page is going to be. And he said this is just like the standard HTTP request for getting a web page. And he actually talked earlier he had like a table at some point of like the different HTTP requests. Right, yeah, it was in chapter 2. You can see here the 4 fundamental HTTP request methods: post, get, patch, and delete. So, okay, so this is kind of interesting. He says the rule get static pages home maps requests for the URL static pages to the home action in the static pages controller. I don't really get how that works. And I'm super noob, so it could be obvious, but like root, I sort of with the hello world thing, I sort of got that, I think, or at least I had. I mean, it could be a misconception, and then that's why I'm confused. But it was sort of like something like if there's a request for root, send it to the hello action in the application controller. Like that makes sense. But like with this, it's like either this is like a URL or this is like some action location, but is it? All right, so here's the deal. If you're mapping something, you need both the thing that you're mapping, like could be like an expression or whatever, and the thing that you're mapping it to. Here's an example. This is a page I made with some common abbreviations. It says FI maps to fallible ideas, AR maps to autonomy respecting relationships, TCS maps to taking children seriously, and on and on and on. And boy, I came up with a lot of them with the help of the FI people. But I'm not seeing where the like two parts are here. I guess that's my confusion. Unless I put a marker at this point, so that I can find the spot easily and just timestamp it in the video so that if somebody is like skimming through my videos quickly, they'll hopefully see the timestamp and they could if that's the one thing they check out, they can check it out, because I'm a little confused about how this works. Or actually, I should at least try a Googling. I don't know. I have some doubt about how effective it'll be, but I think because no, I think like how I'm trying to figure out how to formulate the Googling. Like, how does mapping in roots.rb work? I think that's worth a shot. Let's see. There's a bunch of stuff. Okay. All right. I didn't see anything super great on my question about how routing works. So I will table it for now. Maybe he answers this. It seems like the sort of thing you might anticipate as a point of confusion, and he has done some of that before. And if not, I'll just put it as a timestamp in AskFI. All right, I think I may have figured it out. I don't know. We'll see. But part of it was like I was confused by this, like the change from the number sign to / was like throwing me off, I think. I don't know. And like that, it wasn't really well explained. But I went back to this diagram of model view controller. And so let's see if I can figure it out. So when we go to static pages.home, right? Yeah. Then that sends us to the static pages controller. And home is defined there. Now notice the difference. This was also kind of confusing. But note the difference between this and application controller. Because application controller, we actually like do something. We render an HTML page. This is different. So he says in the video that, well, in plain Ruby, this wouldn't do anything. In Rails, the convention is that it tries to render a view with the name of the action. So then that's what gets us from here to over here, static pages home. So I think I have at least some sense of what's going on now, so that's good. Oh yeah, and see, not just in the video, but in the text he talks about this, and this is actually more clear. He says, in plain Ruby, these methods would do nothing. In Rails, the situation is different. Static pages controller is a Ruby class, but because it inherits from application controller, the behavior of its methods is specific to Rails. When visiting the URL static pages /home, Rails looks in the static pages controller and executes the code in the home action. So that's kind of what I think I said earlier, where like, yeah, this gets us. I was complaining about the lack of like explicit mapping that I could figure out here, but this is basically saying this is just something that Rails does. This is a Rails like convention is how the mapping happens. So that's fine. So then yeah, when visiting the URL static pages /home, Rails looks in the static pages controller. So we go, to here, and then renders the view corresponding to the action. In the present case, the home action is empty. So all visiting static pages / home does is render the view. And the view is that home.html.arb that we already saw. So the exercises for this section are generate a controller called foo with actions bar and boz. So all right, I think that do. Yeah. And then basically destroy the same. It doesn't respect control arrows on Amazon Cloud IDE. All right. Good times. I'm going to end this video here.